So today's message, I want to talk about where we are. Where we are. Where we are. And when I say where we are, I mean from a prophetic timeline, or as they say, eschatology. So from an eschatological or prophetic timeline standpoint, we are much closer to the end. Now, remember the scripture say a day is like 1,000 years to God, and 1,000 years is like a day. Why? He's the ancient one. He's the eternal one. He sits outside of time. So God is not confined to time. And it's difficult for us humans to think anything other than time, because everything about us, everything we do and think is within the bounds of time. All right. The past, the present, and the future, which is also mysterious, because the only true in our time, and I want to shout out Dr. Myron Golden for awakening this in my mind, even though I believe I've discussed it at times. He really gave verbiage and a concept to what I'm about to say when it comes to the past, the present, and the future. If you think about it, in our time, while we're not in eternity, while we're in the confines of time, the only true times are the past and the future. And people might say, well, how is that possible? It's now. Well, as soon as I say now, immediately it becomes the past. Now, past. Now, past. Why? Because a nanosecond, a millisecond, a full second goes past, then that now is immediately in the past. So the only things we really have is the future and the past, all right, while we're in this time. But in eternity, it's always now. And I don't want to really go off on that tangent. I thought it was something cool to talk about, because when you look at the timeline, even the actual word that I'm saying, timeline, in the beginning of the time that God created for us to exist on this plane, this is what he established. In the beginning. Now, we've been on Earth, whatever, some people say 6,000 years, some people say longer. You know, people talk about the pre-Adamic race and all that. I'm not here to get into all that right now. But when you look at the end of time, the end of the age, AGE, the end of the age, as the scripture says. Let's say this right here is the end of the age. All right. I'm not God. I don't know overall, but I would say, like, you know, something probably like that, or something crazy. And what I mean by that is, when you look at, okay, 1,000 years is like a day to God. You know, so when people say, okay, he's coming back soon, the time is almost up, and things of that nature, we could have 5 years, we could have 10 years, we could have 15, we could have another 50 years. I don't know. I was kind of trained, so to speak, to be one of the people that believe, like, oh, you know, Jesus coming back real soon and everything, you know. Okay, he's at the door. People say Jesus is at the door, and the scriptures say, looking for these signs, I'm at the door. But what does that even mean? What does that mean time-wise? Again, think about it. A day is like 1,000 years is like a day to God. So if we are at the end of the age, how much time is it? People say, oh, certain prophecies have been fulfilled and things of that nature. True. Because I want to talk about, again, where we are. But I really want to give you a breakdown and understanding of what it is that's being discussed. Hope y'all with me. I know I'm saying a lot. All right, so check this out. When you see Matthew 24, Mark 13, Luke 21. All three of these scriptures, Matthew 24, Mark 13, Luke 21, all of those scriptures talk about when the disciples were talking to the Messiah, they were like, Lord, what would be the sign of the coming of, your return? And I'll read one of them. I'm going to go to Matthew 24. He said, these are the things you should look for. Well, I'm already right here in Mark 13. Cool. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives over against the temple, Peter and James and John and Andrew asked him privately, Lord, tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign when all these things shall be fulfilled? So it was a when and there was a what. All right. When, timeline, what things should take place. All right. And he was talking about the return of Christ. And Jesus answering them, Mark 13, verse 5, began to say, take heed lest any man deceive you. Now, that's very important.